We put a bid on it that night. 9 people bid on the house, and we got it. And I'm sitting in the house right now. So 3 years later, and I would just tell you, having that patience, we lost our faith for a minute. Yeah. God brought it back and said, look, trust me, I got you. Mm-hmm. And so all I just say is just have patience, have faith, and what's for you is for you. And he might be saving you from a situation that was not for you and you tried to force it.
Right.
Don't do that.
That right there. Yeah, absolutely. Well, what's up, everybody? It's your girl here, Breanna Colón, joining you for another podcast episode, Your Life, Your Money with Breanna Colón. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen today, whether you're listening by podcast or watching on YouTube TV. We certainly appreciate you taking the time. Today, I have hanging out with me, Mr. Jonathan Wright from Wright Financial. Can you say what's up to the people?
What's up, good people?
Thank you so much for coming and hanging with me today. Jonathan and I have been collaborating on some things as financial people in the industry. We are trying to make a change. No, we're not trying. We are changing people's lives financially. That's what we do. And I asked him to come and hang with me today so we could talk about just some financial topics and things that people deal with on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's important for us to address some of these things and dispel some myths and encourage some people, inspire some people, motivate some people, all of that. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. I want to start with talking about faith and money. Yeah. A lot of times, there are a lot of Christians and, a lot of people say, I love the Lord. I got relationship with Jesus. I have faith, all of that stuff. But sometimes when the rubber meets the road and we get into everyday decisions, sometimes life-changing decisions, long-term decisions, sometimes people forget to activate their faith, or forget to include God, or even when it comes to business. I'll start there. I know for me, and I'll let you speak for you, but I know for me, I strive to have God as the head of my business. So I want to consult him in all matters because I understand that his way is always going to be better than anything I could think of. He's able to exceed my expectation. That's you know right. What I mean? I mean, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. But I also agree it is hard, to jump out there on faith and, to depend on God fully. Because a lot of times we want to interject ourselves and we default and we go to other people for guidance. Your mom, your dad, they have great wisdom. And sometimes God puts people in your place to provide guidance, but you always have to go back to the source.
That's right.
If you're not connected with the word, then sometimes you can be led astray because you don't know what's real and what's not real. So I think that personal relationship is the first place you got to start with and have that connection so you can have discernment and understand what is God telling you. And he speaks through you in different ways. And so you have to be able to be able to discern, okay, is this truth or are these lies? And then God didn't give you a spirit of fear. So moving that from the equation can be extremely difficult. And I think that's one of the challenges, especially when you're talking about money, because a lot of times we put a lot of emphasis on money to sustain us. But really, where is our faith in that process?
You said a lot of good stuff right there. I couldn't even write fast enough because I was trying to I want to make sure we double click on this and double click on that. First you were talking about being connected to the source. That part right there. I mean, that could preach a whole sermon right there. Are you connected to the source? Like that is so key. It's one thing to just pray every day, help me have a good day or whatever, but it's another thing to actually be connected to the source. And like you said, God speaks in different ways. He can use anything, anybody, whatever he needs to use in order to get a message to you. In order for you to know, what are my next steps And so you also talked about having discernment, and how God didn't give us the spirit of fear. And I want to add to that sometimes we have a problem with waiting.
Yeah.
We get impatient. We're in microwave society. So, we want everything right now. It's got to be right now. If I can't have it right now, it's a problem, and that has been the tendency. If there's a way for us to get it quickly, then sometimes people will act on that in the immediate, because I can just go ahead and get this out the way. I can just go ahead and check this off my list, and not realizing what is the long-term effect of that. Sometimes I will tell my clients, like, if they're trying to make a decision, maybe they want to, it could be a home improvement. I want to get a new air conditioning unit. I want to get a deck on the back of the house, whatever. And they don't have any experience in decks, because that's not their area of expertise. And so I'll say to them, okay, I want you to get 3 estimates. I want you to take the time to get 3 estimates, because you've never had a new air conditioning unit before. So do you know anything about air conditioning units? No, I don't. Okay, well, then how are you going to know if the first company is a good company if you don't take the time to talk to more than one and figure out, well, am I getting the most bang for my buck? Am I paying too much for this air conditioning unit? Is this the right price? Should it be lower? Should it be higher? Can I get more features for the same price? All of that. And how are they treating you? Are they taking the time to answer all your questions? Are they telling you everything? What if there were other features you didn't know about because you didn't go to company B? You know what I mean? So all of that can be found if you take the time. But you get some people who are so impatient. Well, I just need a new air conditioning unit. He came over. He offered me a deal. It sounded good. So I just decided to go ahead and go with that. Right. And I got it. But then later they find out, maybe the air conditioning unit, it broke down, 3 months later, or they found out later that they could have got a better deal. All of that, though, comes to waiting, not wanting to wait. And us, even if in some cases people might pray about it, but then don't have the fortitude to wait and have the faith to believe that God is actually going to answer that and give you direction and discernment, as you said, on which company to go with.
Yeah. I agree with that tremendously, because it's about delayed gratification. And a lot of people don't want to wait because they feel like it needs to happen now. And we have a consumer mentality. And so you see people on TV, you see people on social media, and they appear to be living this lifestyle and having all the things that they want and need, but not necessarily know what the backstory is behind that. Like, what was their story to lead up to that point? And are they living a facade? Are they just showing you what they want you to see over those, 15 seconds, but that's not really their life. And they're really struggling behind the scenes. So I think a lot of people try to compare themselves and think the grass is greener on the other side. And so they're trying to live a lifestyle that may not be the right lifestyle for you right now. Yeah. You might want to attain that, but you also have to put in that work and have a game plan. And especially when you talk about finances, I think that comes back to having a financial plan.
Right.
And that's one of the things I know that our firm, what we focus on is, let's not focus on a product. Let's not focus on the solution. Let's focus on, what are your goals? Where are you trying to go? And let's figure out a game plan to help you get there. But once you have a game plan, you have so much peace.
Yeah. Absolutely. All of that. Now, you mentioned about struggling behind the scenes. I think that has been happening a lot, especially in our culture, where we tend to, too many of us, I'll say, tend to want to keep up with the Joneses. Whether we want to admit that or not, that is what is happening. And we as financial people can see that behind the scenes. I worked as a loan officer for 10 years, and there was a distinct difference between how Black people, when they go to refinance, what their whole financial picture looks like. And I'm sure you can attest to this as well. What their picture looks like when they're trying to refinance or purchase a home versus what our white brothers and sisters, or even the Asian culture, what theirs looks like. Their whole financial picture looks different for most of them when they're buying a house or refinancing. And, it shows you that they aren't fully prepared financially, but they think they are, and it leads to struggling behind the scenes, like what you just said, because they ultimately, in a lot of cases, bought too much house. That kind of speaks to when we had the housing market crash back in 2008. And, while Prince George's County here in Maryland is the largest Black county, it also had a very large percentage of foreclosures. And when you get down to it, of why is that occurring, there was a lot of struggling behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and lack of financial planning, like you said.
I think that's key. Like that game plan,
Mm-hmm.
living beyond your means.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing that because again, they want to keep up with their neighbors and what they foresee as success.
Yeah.
But success can take, you can look at success differently. And as
Mm-hmm.
I've grown and become older and wiser, it's not all attributed to money. I
Yeah.
look at my health as success. I look
Mm.
at my family and their happiness, right? Spending time with them, doing things that, traditions, passing on those traditions.
Mm-hmm.
And, Thanksgiving is coming up. And one of the things that I really look at from a Thanksgiving perspective is that spending time with family is most
Mm-hmm.
critical. And one of the things we always used to do right before the holidays, we would always, before we eat, of course, we say our prayers, but we stand in a circle, all the
Mm-hmm.
whole family, extended family, and
Yeah.
everybody has an opportunity to give a testimony.
Mm-hmm.
They have an opportunity to share how God has been so good to them.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter, she loves Thanksgiving. That's one of her favorite holidays because of just that time period where we're able to sit there and give thanks for that brief moment
Yeah.
publicly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So just those type of traditions, that's what I consider success,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily all finances and consumer driven and what car you drive or how big your
Mm.
house is,
Mm.
a party you going to,
Come on
the
here.
circles that you're a part of. You like all those things are great, but you can't
Yeah.
take none of that with you at the
Mm.
end of the day. So
You better preach.
what are you leaving behind, right? Is you leaving behind a legacy or you leaving behind things that are going to erode and turn to dust?
Yeah, all of that right there. Now, I like what you touched on success, about what defines success. So I want to just kind of backtrack to go over that one more time. I don't want people to miss what you said, and because you really said a lot right there about success is not just about the money. Even though we tend to think that way, that, oh, if I have a lot of money, if I make $1 million, I'm successful. Please, there's a lot of broke people that are millionaires. They're
Yes.
still in a lot of debt. They're drowning because they never learned the basic fundamental principles around money. So it is definitely not just about, the money, but you mentioned about spending quality time with family. The impact you have on family can define success. How well you take care of yourself can define success. That your health is a vital key to your success. It also has a direct effect on your money. So all of those things, I totally agree with. I think you and I were talking recently about, from a health standpoint, we were talking about working out, and when you're trying to run a business, and how important it is, because we put in a lot of hours. It's like jumping into the deep end of the pool when you own a business.
Mhm.
And even though for a lot of people, when they think about, oh, I want to have my own business and I want to have my free time to do da, they don't really understand to whom much is given, much is required. And that includes, it's going to require you to take care of yourself and work out and eat better and do all the things that will allow you to still be able to think with clarity and be able to function and run a team, run an entire business.
I would say from that standpoint, also mental health is so critical, especially
Yeah.
nowadays. Having that mental mindset and a spiritual connection to bring you through those peaks and the valleys, because those peaks and valleys are inevitable when you're an entrepreneur. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
happen, just like in life. I mean, things are not always going to be perfect, but it's how you handle those situations and who you have with you going through those situations,
Mm-hmm.
and who you belong to, and knowing who you belong to, the Most High God, and He's going to be there for you regardless. And
Yeah.
so, I say those coming back to the connection to the source is
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
and it's going to help you and guide you. But that mental health is critical, and I don't even think that, at first, earlier in my life, everybody thought, therapy was a bad word and not really,
Yeah.
something you wanted to publicize that you're going through
Right.
therapy. But now I'm listening to
Hush, hush.
sermons and pastor like, look, my therapist I got God on my side, but I also got a therapist. And so it's
Right.
like now it's really widely accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of benefit in getting help and seeking help and not being ashamed of that as well.
Yeah. 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 You're right. It definitely was a hush hush topic, or a topic that we were dismissive about. We were
Yes.
just like, therapy. Oh,
Yeah, I don't need
black
that.
people don't do that.
Yeah,
We
I don't
don't
need
do therapy. That's for them. That's not for us. We've come a long way. We've come a long way in our knowledge, and we still have a long ways to go. When it comes to education and things of that nature, in terms of, which is why we do what we do. But we've definitely come a long way in trying to just understanding the things and people that are available to us to help us, that everything is other things that are offered are not necessarily bad for you. It can actually be beneficial. So along these lines of faith and money, I'm going to share a story of a time that my husband and I, we did not put our faith in activation. Well, we started with faith and then we stopped. Is what happened.
I got you.
In
Yeah,
reality,
it happens.
when we moved, we had to move from Charles County to Howard County, and here in Maryland. And we're a military family, so we were trying to. The military will pay for your move, and you got a certain window of time to figure out where you're going to live, and put in the paperwork and all of that stuff, right? So when you're moving to a new area, you got to get to know the area. You're trying to ride around and figure out where you're going to move to, all of that stuff. So we decided we were going to rent a house first, so we could get to know the area more and really figure out, okay, where exactly do we want to land and situate when we do buy a house. So we had a hard time, because I don't know if you know much about these counties in Maryland, but going from Charles County to Howard County is like night and day on cost of living. So, we had a very nice brand new construction home built in Charles County that we had lived in for many years. And then we went from that, selling that, to coming out to Howard County, trying to find something comparable. No. Comparable would be double the price.
No doubt.
So we were like, wait, what's happening here? But we had to move out there because my husband was stationed near that area. So we were like, okay, we gotta, we'll make this move. So anyway, we're looking for rental houses, and the houses that are in the same price range as what our mortgage was, are older. I mean, like significantly older, and they are just not what we want. If I can just be honest, real talk. It just wasn't, when you're used to a certain way of living, you think you're gonna come out here and get the same. And so we're looking at all these houses, and then they're all tucked away. Howard County is a tucked in county, so all of these houses out here are tucked in with trees and woods and deers and bunnies and all of that, and it's not like that. It's more suburbia in Charles County. So anyway, so we couldn't find a house. We're running out of time. We had been praying and asking the Lord, this is the desire of our heart. We need a house. There's 4 bedrooms. It's 5 of us. We need 4 bedrooms. We need this, that, the other. We laying out our petitions before the Lord and praying and believing God that he's going to show us where he wants us to live. But because we were running out of time, now, mind you, it's not like the military was pushing us and saying, hey, if y'all don't put your paperwork in by tomorrow, we're not going to be able to move you. That's not how that went. It's just us feeling our own natural pressure of, we got to pick a house where we're running out of time. So we found this house that was $2,700, which was out of our budget at the time. And we didn't like the house at all. It was a 5-bedroom house to rent. And I didn't like the basement. Like, it just gave me spider vibes. Yeah. Spider vibes. I'm going down there like, oh, and I got to go down here to do laundry. But it was like, we were running out of time, and everything else was like $3,500, $3,200. Like, everything was so expensive that would be large enough to accommodate our family and all of our stuff. So anyway, we're waiting, and I'm like trying to hold out. And, we talked, and we're like, we got to get our paperwork in. Like, okay, let's just go with this house. So we decided to go with this $2,700 house, 5 bedrooms that we don't like. Our mortgage at the previous house was $1,800 a month.
Okay. Yeah, this is
so. Yeah, that's a little different. It's a whole lot different. That $900 is, $900 more for something you don't like, right?
Exactly.
So like a few days later, a lady called me back. I had found this house in the newspaper. It was, I don't know if it was in a penny saver or what, but I found this house that was for rent. And but it didn't have any pictures. She didn't have a website or anything you could go to, right? So I called and I had left a message, hey, I'm interested in seeing your house. And it was in, I believe the house was in Severn, which is like 20 minutes from Columbia. So anyway, I know I'm making this story long, but I'm going somewhere with it. I am.
All
So
right.
anyway, so the lady calls me back and says, oh, I'm sorry, I was out of town. You know, the house is still available if you want it. You know, I'll send you some pictures and everything. This house was $1,850 a month in Severn, colonial style, like our previous house. 4 bedrooms, had a porch, backyard, everything. If we had just waited,
Lord have mercy.
could you just wait?
Oh my.
Acting like the Lord don't know that I
Yeah.
prayed. Am I a king's kid or not?
Right.
You know, like I said, I know the Lord had to be looking at us like, Lord, my children, Lord Jesus,
Hey,
my children.
look at them.
Look at them, my children. When they gonna learn? When they gonna learn? So had we just waited, and believed, if we believe by faith, if we believe that God hears our prayers and we believe that God is going to answer our prayers, and we believe what his word says,
Yeah.
then we know he knows when we got to be in the house. He knows that we in the military. He knows when the paperwork got to be in. He knows all of that stuff. So if we just hold tight for a minute, it might feel like the 9th hour to us. We're in the last hour, but he will answer our prayers. That's just really the bottom line.
It is. It really just reminds me, the scripture where it says, like, I take care of the birds. So you don't think I'll take care of you, feed you, and make sure that you are going to be okay. And I'm just like, you're right, God. A lot of times I have to pause and just say, you know what? Let me slow down.
Yeah.
Let me just pause and let me just listen and reflect. And a lot of times that calms you down and just says, all right, it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we get ahead of God. My dad reminds me all the time, say, don't get ahead of God. Don't get ahead of God, because what he has planned for you is much better than anything that you could come up with.
That's
And
right.
a lot of times we don't see that because we're only looking at the next minute or the next hour.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking down the coming planning. But God's plan is better than our plan.
Yeah.
He wants us to have wisdom, right? And he wants us to do our part, not just sit and pray and be like, all right, God's going to take care of everything. So faith without works is dead. So you got to be working, and you got to be putting some things in place to prepare yourself so God can open those windows for you and you can walk through the doors. Because if you're not prepared and you haven't put that preparation in, then you might not be ready for what God has for you.
Yeah, that right there. It's like when people say, I'm praying and I'm believing God for a house, but we haven't started clearing out stuff, cleaning up stuff, getting ready. What if God want to bless you with the house tomorrow? Are you ready to receive it? Have you started preparing as if he's going to answer the prayer?
Yes.
Or are you going to wait until it's time to get the house and now you're like, oh shoot, let me give me, well, that's too late.
Yeah.
We got to walk in expectation. That's one of my affirmations. I walk in expectation of great things because great things happen to me. I say that almost daily. And I walk around looking, expecting, especially if I prayed about something. I'm like, wonder what God's going to do today.
Exactly. I mean, that's how I started this company with Right Time. It was something that has been on my heart for years, but I was always hesitant to jump out there because I was just like, you know what? I'm comfortable where I'm at. I don't feel like I'm living my full potential. However, I'm comfortable. I'm able to pay the bills.
Yeah.
I'm helping families, so things are fine. But, God allows you to go through situations in life that makes you uncomfortable so that he can push you to your next phase of your life.
That's
for
right.
his will. It all comes back to his will, not yours. And once you recognize that, God's going to lead you through these seasons that sometimes you're like, why am I going through this? And then at the end, you realize, wow, I'm glad I went through it because I needed to go through that to prepare me what he had for me. And
Yes.
and I'm realizing that I'm living in that season now. It's like, sometimes you wonder, like, why is this happening? And then when things happen, you're like, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord, for allowing me to go through that. Not only for me, but for me to be able to share that with somebody else who's going through that and share a testimony that's going to guide them. So a lot of times you go through things not necessarily for you, but for somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's been eye-opening for me as I'm continuing to build my relationship with God.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So right along those same lines of one more thing I'm gonna touch on as far as faith and money, and then we'll kind of shift gears, is a lot of times I've had clients that are looking to buy a home, and they what the concern is, especially in these areas, and I'm sure it's the same in Virginia because Virginia is expensive too, of, well, I want to move in this area where there's a good school district, or, I got to have all these certain criteria, and they allow that criteria to drive their decisions as opposed to financial readiness. So maybe, the house is, they are willing in a lot of cases to buy a more expensive house in order to have said school district, because they don't believe or have the faith level to believe that God can provide a house in the district where they can afford to buy a house that still also buy good schools. You know what I mean? So, it'll be, I've had that situation a few times from believers where, I'm kind of encouraging them, I'm encouraging them from a spiritual standpoint, that as you're praying, like, do you believe that God can provide? He said he shall provide for all of our needs according to his glorious riches. He knows that you need to buy a house. And he knows which house is for you. But are you, regardless of what's going on around you, you can have the realtor all in your ear. Well, it's going to be, it's hard to find houses. There's no houses really available in the 300,000 to 400,000 in this area. I don't need all the houses. I just need a house. Right. I just want the house that God has for me, and the house that he has for me. If this is the area that I desire to live in and it's in line with his will, then he's going to provide a house in that area. It'll be the one that opens up, So, but we don't have the patience, and so we don't believe at that level. A lot of people don't believe to that degree. And so they just, we just going to go out here. It'll be fine. And then they end up struggling.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, and that's a true statement. That happened to us. I had a similar story to yours and how we found our house, one of the best school districts in Loudoun County. And we gave up looking at a house. We were putting bids on all these different houses, and we were looking for a townhouse. And all the townhouses were being, outbidded, and people were going into them without an inspection. Like, you just had to buy it as is. You didn't know what was going on with the house, but that was the market. And so, we put a lot of bids on, and then my wife, she gave up. She was like, look, and I did too. I was like, you know what, let's go ahead and rent for a year. And literally the realtor calls me after we literally that night before just said, you know what, we're going to rent for the rest of, another year.
Yeah.
Realtor calls me and he's like, dude, you remember we had an appointment today? I'm like, oh, we did? And so I felt obligated to go with him on that one particular day because he said, and I didn't want to give up on my word. So I said, you know what, I'm going to go on this. And I went on the appointment. My wife's like, I'm not going. You go do that. You go do what you got to do.
I'm tired of this.
Yeah, she's like, I'm done. So I went. We looked at a few townhomes. I was like, and you know how you go through these neighborhoods where there's houses and there's townhomes in the same neighborhood?
Yeah.
So we passing the houses. I'm like, ooh, I want one of those. But we going to the townhouse. And I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with townhouses. But I was just like, that was my mindset just shifted. And we went to the townhouse, like, you know what? I say, you know what, Conway, this is not for me. We just going to pause on this. So we left. Then he calls me back 5 minutes later. He said, a house just came on the market literally 1 hour ago, and it's 5 minutes away. Do you want to go look at it?
Wow.
We went and looked at it. I said, as soon as I got there, I said, call my wife. I said, come out here right now. And she drove an hour to the house. We put a bid on it that night. 9 people bid on the house and we got it. And I'm sitting in the house right now. So 3 years later, and I would just tell you, having that patience, we lost our faith for a minute, but God brought it back and said, look, trust me, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say all I just say is just have patience, have faith, and what's for you is for you. And he might be saving you from a situation that was not for you and you tried to force it.
Right.
Don't do that.
That right there. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's real good. That's real good talk right there. I want to share another story, but I'm not. I'm going to go switch gears and we're going to shift to this life insurance because I do want to dispel some of these myths because I'll save it for another time. Maybe in another next season, since we're kind of at the end of this season's episodes, but we'll definitely have to have like maybe a part 2 or something. Yeah. But so I want to shift gears and talk about life insurance because that's another area that in particularly in our culture, let me just say there's too many GoFundMes, too many. And it always seems to be us. I'm not saying that it's not other people sometimes, but more often than not, it's us. And it's just really unnecessary. And it just really reinforces why we do what we do, of empowering and educating people to be able to do better financially. So I pulled up what I came up with actually, and I found some online as well, some myths that I want us to just kind of talk through about what people think about life insurance. So one of them, if I get insurance, I don't know. I might die if I get insurance right now. I don't know. What's your thoughts about that?
I mean, I would say with any type of insurance, it's a gamble. Like you buying insurance is just in case something happens. It doesn't mean something's going to happen. Just
well said.
But what I will say is there's 2 things in life that's certain. There's certain that you're gonna pay taxes.
Yep.
And it's certain you're gonna die.
Yep.
So those 2 things are gonna happen. So why not be prepared for the inevitable? Right? Instead of thinking, okay, I may die. Yeah, you're going to die. We all are going to die at some point. But do you want to die leaving a legacy or do you want to die being broke? And so, that takes someone with foresight and wisdom and understanding that it's not about you.
Yeah.
You got life insurance is one, taking yourself out of the equation and thinking about your children's children, which it says in the Bible as well.
That's right.
Generation for your children's children. And not necessarily. And if you don't have children, there's also other ways that you can still pass on a legacy that doesn't necessarily have to go to your family members. It can go to a cause that you care about, a charity that you care about, organization that you care about, your church home. So you got to start thinking about who can I bless and be a blessing to, because people have been a blessing to me. So how can I do that? Now, that's only one aspect of life insurance. The other aspect that people don't even realize is the living benefits. And we'll probably get to that. But I just want people to start thinking about, you can use life insurance while you're living.
That's right.
But only people start thinking about it from the standpoint of, when I'm gone, why am I going to pay money for somebody else to benefit? I need that money while I'm living. One, that's a selfish mentality.
It is.
But 2, you got to start thinking about, all right, would I be in a better place if someone left me an inheritance? Would that have put me in a better position than where I am right now if somebody had the foresight to think about someone other than themselves? So
perspective.
Think about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Perspective, and that's all of that. Very well said. I'm not going to even piggyback on it. The next one is, I got time. I'll once I take care of this and this, then I'll get some life insurance. Once I start this other job, then I'll get some life insurance. Then, next year, I got to take care of these other things first, but maybe probably about next year, I'll get some then.
You're not here next year. You gone.
Right.
Gone. Like,
right. You didn't know when you were going to be born. So how do you know when you're going to die? Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the name of our firm is Right Time Financial, right? So I mean,
Mhm.
enough said right there. I
Right.
mean, but you got to think about, we work with people who are ambitious professionals, help them create a wealthy mindset
Mm-hmm.
and take action and execute and seize the moment.
Right.
Now, doesn't mean you just have to jump and do everything right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time and place, and you got a plan. Again, you go back to planning,
Yep.
but that's where you have wise counsel
Mm-hmm.
and you have your financial team
Mm-hmm.
guiding you to help you prioritize
Yep.
your goals and what's important. And when you're building a financial plan, the first step in that financial plan is protecting you from a worst case scenario happening.
Mm-hmm.
So it's protection. So
Mm-hmm.
protection can be life insurance, disability,
Mm-hmm.
long-term care, which is probably a
Mm-hmm.
whole nother segment that we can
Mm.
dive into right there, because that will wipe
Right.
you out if you don't have that.
That's right.
And then all your other insurances. Do you have the right type of coverage for your homeowners, your property and casualty? All
Mm-hmm.
these things are critical. Emergency fund,
Mm-hmm.
having these basics in place to protect you from worst case scenarios happening or mitigate the risk or transferring the risk. It's
Mm-hmm.
all about risk mitigation.
That's right.
So one of the things that you want to think about when you're thinking about risk mitigation is like, all right, what is my budget? What is my discretionary income? How much money can I set aside to protect myself? Because if you don't do these things, it's either you're gonna pay now or you're gonna
Gonna
pay a
pay
lot
later.
more later.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you want to start thinking about your legacy in the context of how do I protect it using different types of insurances.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many types of insurances out there, and that's where you need somebody to help guide you through that process. What is affordable for me, but also
Uh-oh. Looked like we had lost you for a hot second. That you said what is affordable? What was the last sentence you said? What's look at what's affordable and what?
and what's effective.
Ah, okay, got you. Yes, and what's effective? Absolutely, absolutely. So the next one is parents who think they don't need coverage on their kids because they're scared of the thought of losing their kids. They don't want to entertain that because they're like, well, I don't. Yeah, I don't. Or they think, well, I don't really need any coverage on my kids right now. Like what? Uh, Okay. Now, if you could pay for a basic funeral and you have the assets to support it, okay, that's one thing. But that's separate from someone just having the mentality of thinking they don't need insurance on their kids because their kids are young and kids die every day. Like, come
Yeah.
on. No, we don't want to think about that. But it goes back to what you said, which is, having a plan. Um, and that's part of your financial plan is that God, if God forbid something happened to my child, I'm able to take care of that expense and not be on GoFundMe. I can't believe he gone,
Yeah.
and all of this drama.
So what I would say about that is shifting your mindset from the the piece of paying for funerals and things of that nature to the
Mm-hmm.
living benefits that life insurance can offer. Because
Mm-hmm.
you got to think the cost that goes into insurance is based on two factors, really two major factors, your age and your health.
Mm-hmm.
So the younger you are, the lower the cost of insurance.
That's right.
So who's younger, you or your kids, right? Your
Yep.
kids. So if you can get insurance on your kids, and a lot of wealthy individuals that really have good advisors, they know that they want to get insurance on their children,
Mm-hmm.
mainly because they have the money to pay for a funeral. It's not that. They're
Right.
getting it because life insurance is an immediate estate and allows you to
Mm-hmm.
grow money tax free.
That's right.
So they use it as a Roth IRA where they can
Mm-hmm.
save money into this policy and it can grow and they can access it anytime they want. They create their own personal bank.
That's
And
right.
so therefore now you can pay for college or subsidize or support college, down
Mm-hmm.
payment on a house, wedding,
Mm-hmm.
help them with life challenges and also
Mm-hmm.
retirement. So
Mm-hmm.
we've structured policies where the kids are going to be multimillionaires by the
Mm-hmm.
time they're in their 65. They get to
Mm-hmm.
retirement tax free.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you
Mm-hmm.
have to start early.
That's
Literally,
right.
we work with people as soon as the kids are born, we
Yep.
put a policy on it,
Yep.
and we're max funding it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, once you start shifting your mindset to, okay, I'm getting this for the death benefit, to you getting it for the living benefits, that's when your whole legacy is changing. Like automatically, you did that, but then you also have to teach the kids to maintain it. Because after they
That right there.
get to adult age, you don't want them to go and like, oh, I got all this money tax free. Let me go spend it. I want to go on a trip. I want to go buy this car. No, this money is for your future. So that's where you have to start educating your kids at a young age to maintain this policy throughout their lifetime. And then they're going to do the same for their kids. And that's where you have generational wealth.
Yep. Absolutely. You got definitely, you said it exactly right. You got to have a part one is setting it up, but part two is making sure that you are teaching them properly, so that carries forward. There's so many parents that has been so many parents that may leave some money behind, whether that's a small quantity or a large quantity, and but didn't take the time to teach their kids about how to manage money. And so as an adult, like you said, they get the money and blow right through it. And, it's gone as fast as they got it. They might have 100,000, 200, $500,000 or whatever. And in 6 months to a year, like what happened? What happened to all this money? Because they never learned how to manage, learned all the basic principles. So all of that is very, very, very well said. Let's see. So the next one is life insurance is expensive. Well, I think that's the wrong approach. Number one, there's policies to accommodate just about every budget. Let's start there. But, and there's, multiple companies that can take care of multiple things. But I think that people have to make it more of a priority. And like you spoke of, as it pertains to the living benefits, how much more would it cost you if you didn't have the insurance and then you suffered, a critical illness, a chronic illness, whatever, pertaining to the living benefits of the policies that would have cost you even more money if you didn't otherwise have the policy, could the cost be even more? But these are things that, the average person probably is not aware of, that then, when they think of life insurance, they automatically think death. Once I die, I'm going to leave X amount of dollars, when it's about so much more than that. So anyway, but I'll let you speak to that as well.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's relative. Like everybody has a different take on what's expensive and what they value.
Right.
I have clients that value life insurance because they know what it can do for them. They're educated on what life insurance can do, and they know that wealthy individuals, a lot of times, they don't need life insurance, but they have life insurance because they know it's an immediate estate. They know it's going to go to their beneficiaries tax-free, and it's going to avoid probate. So being able to understand how life insurance and the different types of life insurance, then you can structure one around your budget. But again, it all comes down to your discretionary, to your budget, and also understanding what's important to you. Is it more important to you to go out to eat every week? Is it more important for you to have those new Jordans?
Well,
is it more important for you to have that nice car where it's $1,000 a month to lease a car? Or is it more important to have $1 million policy, that you can leave behind tax-free to your family? So it comes down to your priorities first, and then it comes down to your cash flow and your budget.
Budget. A lot of people listening probably gonna be like, "Well, what budget? What are you talking about?"
Yeah, that's a
budget.
Word.
That's a bad word. You're cussing, Jonathan.
Yeah, you're cussing. I'm cussing, and I'm leaving to be where all day long. Because look, we gotta make sure that people have a budget.
That's right.
That budget is going to keep you on track, right?
Yep.
And once you allocate, for us, what we did is, my family, we allocated a certain amount towards protection. And we said, based on that, then we also went and saw how much we needed. And so we went through a financial plan. We had a lot of tools that was able to tell you what your insurable need was. Once we understood what our insurable need was and what our budget was, then we sought out a professional that could determine what is the best type of insurance to put in place to fit our budget, tailored to our solution, and what do we want the outcome of this policy to do for us.
Yep.
And then we stuck with it because we had a why. We understood what the policy did for us. We understood all the ins and outs of the policy, how it was going to help us and sustain us if something were to happen. And where it was affordable. We kept it within budget. And there's a lot of people who want insurance that can't even get it. So even if we go through all of this and you apply, there's still no guarantee that you're going to qualify for it.
Right.
So
Right.
That's the other side of it. How's your health? That's what we talked about, the health and wealth side. That literally, that is the equation. The healthier you are, the wealthier you could be, because now your cost of all these things that you need are going to be lower. So it's a direct correlation.
I like how you put that. The healthier you are, the wealthier you could be. I like that. That's good. That's real good. Which leads into the next one, which is no one will insure me. Because you were just talking about that. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get qualified. Now, I'll say from my standpoint, you do get, I have gotten clients that will say, well, I didn't think I was insurable because I got turned down from such and such a company. So sometimes they can get turned down from company A and they think automatically that means I'm uninsurable, which is not true. There are companies to cover just about every illness you can think of, unless you just on your dying bed. Well, okay, I'm sorry. But, but generally speaking, sometimes it's as simple as maybe somebody has, diabetes and they are on insulin or something. And, well, the traditional companies are going to have a harder time saying yes, but then there's specialty companies, that will say yes and still will insure people that have some of those heavier medical conditions. So I guess my point to that myth is don't assume that, one company, the best thing you can do is work with a brokerage. If you're working with which both Jonathan and I are both. And so working with the brokerage, you have access to multiple insurance companies, which means then your financial person that you're working with can then do the work as an insider to look at the guidelines for each company to see, based on your particular medical conditions, your health situation, which company is more likely to approve you and say yes. So don't assume that you're not insurable. Find out first. Don't just allow that to be your status. My health is not good. They probably not going to insure me. Make a call and find out anyway.
Yeah, let them tell you no. You know what I mean? Like apply, and again, to your point, work with someone who has access to multiple companies. Because not all companies are created equal.
That's right.
The underwriting guidelines are all different. So to filter it out, we do an intake form. So before we even get started and fill out application and you go through, the blood and urine, all that through the health screening. Before we get to that point, let's talk to the underwriter directly first.
Yep.
And they'll give you a good indication of what rating or what class you could come in at, or is it an automatic decline? And so that intake form will save us a lot of time. And usually they'll get back with you within 48 hours.
Yep.
And so you'll have a good sense of where you stand and who you should apply with. So that's number one. And then number two, there's other ways to be insured besides getting life insurance. A lot of people don't realize this. So you can get coverage and a death benefit through annuities. And annuities, you don't have to qualify.
Right.
So, and some annuities have long-term care incorporated in them. So you can get an income stream, a death benefit, long-term care, and growth of your principal all in one vehicle if you have money. You don't have money, now we're talking a whole nother story, but that's why they say the rich get richer. They have these different types of vehicles available to them. But that's where a financial advisor can help guide you and help you build a plan to build up your assets so that you can then transition those assets into a vehicle that's going to give you all these protections.
Absolutely. Let's see. So another one, I have insurance through my job, so I'm good.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. Number one, do you plan to be at your job the rest of your life?
Hello.
Right? And literally the rest of your life, because that's the only time that they're going to cover you.
Right.
While you are working there.
Exactly.
Do you ever plan to retire? Okay. And again, we said the two factors that impact the cost of insurance, your age and your health.
Yep.
So if you're going to wait to try to get insurance after you leave that job, one, you got to have the cash flow to pay for it.
Right.
Two, you're older now. And three, you might have some health issues.
Yeah.
So do you rather rent your life insurance, which you're doing through your job, or would you rather own your life insurance, which is outside of your job? And same with housing. Most people prefer to own. So why not own your policy? It goes with you wherever you go.
That's right. I like the way you put that. Do you want to rent or you want to own? Which one you want? I'll do one more, and then I want to use our last few minutes to just kind of talk about wealth building a little bit. Okay. Or maybe I'll save that for a part 2. I don't know, because this is so good. Anyway, stay-at-home moms don't need insurance. Well, let me speak to that first. So that's a lie, first of all. The value of a mom, working or not, is almost invaluable. Let me start there. But, it is important to cover the mom that is staying at home, because if you start to think about what all has to be replaced if she is no longer here. And, just if we just talk about daycare alone, I mean, daycare is a whole mortgage payment right now. Let you have an infant, have an infant, and from what I hear, daycare is like a couple $1,000, $2,500 a month or more, depending on where you live. So it's really, really ridiculous. So to say that a stay-at-home mom does not need life insurance is ridiculous. And it's all the other things that a mom brings to the table, not just she's staying at home and taking care of the baby, but there's so many other aspects that a mom brings that you would have to replace, that warrant needing coverage. Just because you're the breadwinner is not the only factor to determining if you need life insurance. Yeah. Anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I would say again, it's not an easy decision.
Yeah.
In terms of your priorities and, being a single mom or, single parent, period.
Right.
You have a lot of competing forces for your budget. And again, it comes down to prioritization. It comes down to your budget, comes down to what you want the outcome to be. Do you want to create a legacy and leave a legacy?
Yeah.
So all those things play a factor. And that's where I think having guidance and a coach to support you and put things on paper so you can see that it's not as bad as you think. Or if it is, then how can I get in a better place and have someone, your accountability partner, to guide you there? Even putting in like a term policy, a temporary, what we call temporary policy, is going to give you some coverage. A lot of these policies you can convert into a permanent policy later without another health screening. That's one of the strategies that we really talk about, is maybe you start off with what we call a starter kit, a term policy, and then convert later as your income increases to something that you own. So just having some coverage, especially if you have children, is very prudent of you as a parent. So I encourage people to prioritize that. And again, we're just coaches. We're just going to be there to guide you. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're just going to tell you, give you information so you can make sound financial decisions with that information, creating wealthy mindsets.
See, that's one of the reasons why we're connected, because we are absolutely on the same page about the education piece. It's really about empowering people to be able to make better financial decisions. And like he said, we're not trying to tell you what to do, but we are going to educate you in such a way that you understand so that you can make informed decisions. That's so vitally important, in what we do. Here's the last one. I'm too old. I can't get life. Now, there are some people who realistically have passed the age or the cutoff, at least for life insurance. Now, like Jonathan mentioned, there's other ways, you could do some things with an annuity if you have some funds. But in general, most life insurance companies, will cut off at 80. However, there are some who will go to 85. We have a company that even goes to 95. That's almost unheard of. So the older you get, the less the number of companies there are that will be available that will cover you. And then also it depends on your health. You can't be 90 and, just had a heart attack yesterday. That's going to be a little hard to accomplish. But just know that whatever age you are, if you're, all the way up to age 95 and you're in decent health, it is a possibility. Again, it goes back to what Jonathan said earlier of, let them tell you no. The worst answer is no. It's also automatic no if you don't call and find out. Right. But the least you could do is make a phone call and say, hey, let me, I'm this age, I have this going on, with the health and all of that. And then let the person determine if you are, or the insurance company determine if you're insurable or not.
Yeah, I would say too, there's companies out there that just focus on burial expense policies that don't
Mm-hmm.
require medical.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look for some of those that even have, concierge services tied to it. And so there's options out there. But
Yeah.
even as you're older, it might cost you a little bit more, and you may get less coverage, but something is better than nothing. And so
Yeah.
that's where, and also I've seen it where family members chip in to purchase life insurance on an older,
Mm-hmm.
more seasoned, I would say, individual in the
Yeah.
family.
That's right.
And I've seen that with the children. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen the children pay for the insurance for their parents,
Yep.
because ultimately that burden is going to fall on them
That's
at
right.
some point. So it's like they want to get ahead of that as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so sometimes they'll buy insurance if money is a factor.
Right.
There are
That's
ways
right.
to get around it from a no medical type of policies that are out there. They
Mm-hmm.
will go up to 85 years old, or sometimes older. So
Right.
that should not be an excuse, but you do need to have competent advisors around you that have
Mm-hmm.
access. If you're going
Mm-hmm.
to your local bank or credit union, they most
Mm.
likely don't have those options.
Bless their hearts.
Yeah, unfortunately. A lot of banks and credit unions, I ain't talking
Yeah, of
about
course.
them.
Of course. Of course. Of course. They're
Limited.
good. They're good at what they're good at, and we're good at what we're good at.
That's it. Limited options. So
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So as we get ready to end today, I just want to talk very briefly about our companies. Um we are connected because we're like together, we're kind of like a powerhouse of a one-stop shop, really, is the truth of the matter. um our company, Integrity Financial, specializes in helping people achieve financial freedom. A lot of our clients are people who are feel like they make good money, but they don't always have everything they need to show for it. They haven't maybe been managing well, or haven't been saving their money properly, or they haven't gotten all their retirement ducks in a row, and they just need like a makeover, if you will, and need to really get their finances in order. And then we also do some things with the insurance products, with the life insurance and annuities and long-term care and things of that nature. Jonathan's company, and I'll say what I'm going to say, but you can of course piggyback and add anything you want. But Jonathan's company focuses on the other end of the spectrum for people who are doing financially well already, and they are kind of looking to take it to that next level. How do I I have money and I have these assets, I have this a large amount of disposable income or whatever, and how do I grow that? How do I make that money work for me in such a way that I'm creating that generational wealth? So it's kind of like people that aren't there yet, kind of start with us in the incubator, so to speak, and kind of get all of that together. And then it's like, for those that are already kind of situated financially, then Jonathan and his team has a wealth of tools to help people to build that generational wealth, make sure their retirement plans are secure, and all of those types of things. Is there anything you want to add to what I said?
no, I mean that was great. I would say one thing that we specialize in is comprehensive financial planning.
Mm-hmm.
So having a game plan, using technology to really assess your financial situation, being more hands-on, and making sure that you're a part of the process and it's not a
Mm-hmm.
black box. I think that's one of the strategic advantages we have and the differentiators. But also, we really started looking at alternative investments as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
alternative investments were investments that are not necessarily correlated to the stock market,
Mm-hmm.
um, especially given the volatility in the market.
Yep.
And getting into like commercial real estate, getting into leases, getting into structured notes and structured financing, um, those type of things where people were not necessarily introduced to or knew that were out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're giving people an education that can qualify for those. You got to be a qualified investor into these areas which were a black box for so many years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. No, that's good. That's really good. I do think it would be beneficial if you feel like hanging with me some other time for a part two to, kind of
No
dig into,
doubt.
because I don't want to gloss over the wealth building piece. And we really would have only had like a few minutes to touch on that. And we really didn't even take a deep dive into the insurance portion. We really
Right.
just kind of talked about just kind of dispelling the myths on the surface level with a little touch of hints, a little bit about, what's available in the life insurance world. But there's so much more, that we can unpack on a different day and time. And so we will, I will make sure that we have all of our contact information. You'll be able to see that in the description box. So if you want to get in contact with Jonathan, or you want to get in contact with me, you'll have all of our information there to reach out to us, and we're more than happy to assist. So
Absolutely.
thank you again, Jonathan, for hanging out with me today. I know that you are busy and you could have been doing anything else, but thank you for gracing us with your presence.
Absolutely. It was a blessing. I appreciate it. Hopefully it was helpful for some people out there. And we're looking forward to connecting with each and every one of you out there.
Yes, absolutely. Until next time, be blessed. Bye-bye.